To today's session. Today we'll be studying the unit 2, which will cover economic growth and development. The objective of this session, that is unit 2, after this session you should be able to, number one, explain the concept of economic growth, economic development, and some indicators of economic development. We'll discuss a couple of models, economic model like Harrod-Domer model, Solow model, endogenous growth theory. They talk about the development, economic development. And then there are some major theories of underdevelopment. We'll just touch upon that also. After that, we'll come to the macroeconomy, which is, we'll familiarize, first part is also macroeconomic economic development, another thing. The second part, which we are very familiar, is with GDP and other things. Those things we'll be studying. We'll know the concept related to national income along with three major methods of estimating how national income, that is GDP, is measured. We'll have an understanding about national income from different angles. And finally, we'll discuss inflation, which is very important. In fact, GDP, inflation, interest rate, these are very important for any management student. So I hope today I'll get your all attention, and we will learn after this session about these key things which are very important for management of any organization. Let's introduce. Achieving a higher rate of economic growth is the objective of every nation around the world. You very often find that we are talking about we are the third largest growing economy, large economy. We have already overtaken France, we have overtaken Britain or something like that. Maybe we overtake Japan and then Germany, and then we'll be behind America and China. So this economic growth is a concern of every nation, because once the economic growth happens, it passed on to everybody, and the standard of living improves and the people of the country prosper. As you can see, that though there are poor and very low income group exist, but overall there is an increase in standard of living. Even a very maid servant of your, she will be having also a smartphone. That is one of the things. In their house also you'll get second-hand washing machines and other things. So this shows some sort of improvement in the standard of living. They are also using cooking gas. So these are the sign of improvement in the standard of living. The economic literature is full of theories, classical, Marxist, neoclassical, and many others, which talks about this growth theory, how to achieve the growth. In this unit, you will learn about models like Harrod-Domer, Solow, and endogenous growth theory. We will not go through all the theories which are not so relevant for us. We will go through Harrod-Domer model, Solow's model, and endogenous growth theory, along with some other theories of underdevelopment. Those are under theories of underdevelopment, and these are the theories of growth. Shortly speaking, Harrod-Domer theory highlights the role of saving and investment is important in achieving higher growth. By common sense, you can understand, if you save, you invest, your wealth will grow and you can have a higher lifestyle personally. Country is also same. If the country saves more, they can invest it into the capital goods and producing. More people will be getting employment. Life of everybody will improve. So that is the Harrod-Domer theory. You will use more sophisticated technology, etc., etc. The Solow model talks about importance of technology and capital accumulations. Because once you accumulate capital, you can invest in diversified areas and then have growth. And it will be easier to take up projects which will employ a lot of people, etc. Endogenous growth theory emphasizes the importance of investment in human and physical capital. This is a neoclassical theory, present day theory. They are saying actually you can grow from inside. If your people are good, educated, their physical condition is good, then along with the capital, they can bring in growth. And as you have seen, the software-led growth of Bangalore city or Hyderabad, these are mainly growing through the new generation economy, which is software, biotechnology, or now AI, etc., etc. So these are the key theories we will be learning along with some other underdeveloped theory. After learning about this theory, we will go to study about national income. You know, from national income, you get the per capita income, so you can know where you stand vis-a-vis the other people, other countries, and the various concept methods of estimating the national income. But finally, we'll familiarize with the concept of inflation. If the income is good, but the inflation is high, then your effective income is low. That is what we will be studying at the end of this today's session. So let me start with the theories of economic growth. In the economic sense, we have seen that countries are labeled as developed countries, developing countries, underdeveloped countries. Now, these classifications are done by the government's gross domestic product, gross national income, or per capita income, and these are generally declared by the World Bank or IMF, and they publish these data. The growing GDP, the growing national income, which we are going through now, we are one of the fastest growing GDP globally. Gross national income are the indicators of economic growth. So it will lead to ultimately economic growth. It's because the increase in GDP, if the GDP has to increase, GDP we have studied earlier, gross domestic product. So if gross domestic product has to increase, then there will be employment increase. If the employment increases, then the income level improves. And that will reduce the poverty and deprivations, and slowly maybe you will eradicate poverty, extreme poverty and deprivation. So these are the theories we'll be studying, which will talk about the growth. Before that, we must know something about one concept of economics, which is purchasing power parity. Now, this exactly simple meaning is that at our rupee, suppose there is a 1 kilo of tomato, with how much money I can buy and how much money an US guy can buy. There should be a parity. Okay. So there is a well-developed methodology to compare one country with another, and it is called purchasing power parity. It is used to make comparisons between economic growth and standard of living among nations. So we can compare the standard of living, etc. Like suppose I say that $3,500, it looks a big money, but if you're earning it in America, it is not a big money. But 3,500 a lot of people in our rural, they are making a living with a decent, not decent, but at least not abysmal poverty. So this is called the purchasing power parity. Okay. To explain a little more, suppose I can buy a tomato with 30, but it takes $1 in America. Now $1 is equal to 90 rupees roughly. So that means हम 30 rupees में जो खरीदता है, American लोग 90 rupees में वो खरीदता है. So if we look at from that angle, that I am better off, though my per capita income is much lower than Americans. So that is what purchasing power parity concept is very important, because that really shows what you can afford with your money and what Americans can afford with American dollar. International and Comparison Program, a program run by World Bank, provides comparable price and volume measures of GDP and its expenditure aggregates among countries and publishes this PPP, and you can compare. This is a famous McDonald's economy concept where you compare the price of McDonald's burger in different countries, and then you can see that at what price they are buying. Okay. and you can understand the standard of living in different countries. So now we come down to PPP measures the purchasing power of the currency, as I was telling you. PPP measures purchasing power of the currency. PPP is used to convert cost of basket of goods and services into common currency, and in this process the price difference is eliminated across countries. Now what has happened is that suppose one group of baskets I can buy at 100 rupees, but same thing Americans can buy at a different price. So price difference doesn't matter, both can buy the basket of goods. That is the concept of purchase power parity, and it is very important to know because we define everything dollar or per capita income per dollar, but when you go to the market and buy, maybe with our 3000 rupees I can buy more than $3,500 in American can buy. Okay. So it is important to discuss the PPP as data on various developed indicators is published using PPP approach. Why it was important to discuss PPP? Because various data are used by PPP approach. Now let us go to the theories. Before theory, let us measure the economic development. Try to uska baad we will go to the theory. Economics are interested in measuring economic development all the time. And there are various attempts what I call development. High GDP, or everybody will be living, getting a square meal, have a good house and good quality. Then I would say that yes, we have grown or we are growing like that. So in modern times, Human Development Index or HDI is one of the most widely accepted index, which can say where we stand on economic development. HDI is prepared by United Nations Development Program. It is an index created by United Nations Development Program. It is composite index. It's a composite index जिसमें three parameters are taken. One is life expectancy. That means जो बच्चा पैदा होगा, the boy or child will grow, whether they will survive 5 years or not, or they will die before that because of malnutrition or poor living condition and etc. Second is expected mean years of schooling or education index. First is life expectancy index. Second is expected mean years of schooling. How many years you can do the schooling? You have heard about school dropout. कोई क्लास 8 तक पढ़ पाता है, कोई 5 तक पढ़ पाता है, कोई 11 तक पढ़ पाता है, then they don't do 11 12 or something like that. So what is the mean years they are doing the schooling? That is the education index. Finally we come to the decent standard of living measured by GNI per capita or gross national income per capita, which is called GNI index. So with these three parameters we have developed HDI or Human Development Index. Now I have shown you a table which is on the 2021 fiscal year. FY is for fiscal year. There it is shown that low income, that is $1,000 or less, $1,035 or less gross national income or per capita. 2019. Okay. Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, Ethiopia, you are all familiar with the absolute level of poverty there. Lower middle income, actually now we are around $2,500 or $2,800 per capita income, and we rank pretty low. So $1036 to $4045 is India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, Pakistan. So though we are talking about huge GDP growth and other things because of the size of our country, और per capita, don't forget, we have 140 billion people. 140 crore का आबादी है. So per capita income comes down. So the lower 60% or 70% people pull down the average per capita income, and those who are in the group of 1,000 to 4,000 are called lower middle income. And then comes the next batch, which are upper middle income, जिसमें China, Thailand, Cuba, Maldives, all these countries come in. There are many other countries. We have selected few countries. They are middle income. But this, there is a middle income trap. It's very difficult to move from middle income to high income. High income is 12,536 or more. And you'll be surprised that USA, UK, Finland, France, New Zealand, Germany, Norway, Gibraltar, Oman, these are the countries. The list include only major countries. For more details, you can go to the World Bank website and you can find out. You'll be surprised to note it is not US or UK. It is Finland, Norway, Iceland. They are having the highest HDI, Human Development Index, and their quality of life is very good. So this is what, as it stands now. After this, we will discuss in short some major theories of economic development, Harrod-Dummer model, Solow model, and endogenous growth theory, and some of the theories of underdeveloped, why a country remains underdeveloped. Okay? So here we have seen the Human Development Index, how the scenario is 2019 data. So, 2021 data, I'm sorry, 2021 data. So 2021 data. As of now, Indian per capita income is somewhere around 2,500 to 800 dollars per capita. Okay. So now let's move to the next slide. You can go through the slide. Low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, high income. These are the four classifications World Bank has done. Now, Harrod-Dummer model was discovered by two economists, Roy Harrod and M.C. Domer, in 1950s. They say there are two factors, savings and income rate. That means if I earn 1 lakh, how much I can save? Because that savings goes into the economy for industries, through the bank, to the capital, as a capital, to those who want to set up industries and other thing, because industries brings in growth. Second is capital output ratio. That means if I invest 10 lakhs, how much output I will generate? The amount of capital required to produce 1 unit of output. So the model is based on any assumptions, many assumptions, like any theory, generally you have to have some assumptions. It's a closed economy, there is no government interference in the market, there is full employment economy, there is no bekari. Everybody is employed in the economy. The law of constant return to scale, you can scale up. Okay, if there is anything change, again you scale up to the full capacity. And neutral technical progress, there is not much technical progress, neutral. The model states, so these are the assumptions: closed economy, no government interference, full employment, law of constant return to scale, and neutral technical progress. The model states that economic growth G depends on saving rate S and capital output ratio, represented by G is equal to S divided by K. Now, from this model, G is equal to S by K, you can understand. I'll straight away go to this. If savings rate is 10%, my S is 10%, and capital output K is 2, then my growth rate will be 5% per year. But if the savings rate is 20% and capital output ratio is 1.5, when I need less capital per unit of output, then my growth will be 13.3% per year. But if savings rate is low, 8%, capital output ratio, that means for 1 unit of output, I need 4 units of capital. That means I am inefficient plants, machineries I have. Then the country would go at 2% per year. So the model, what they say, higher savings allows more investment. Increasing investment means you can invest in the sophisticated automated machines and other things. So your output will go up, productive capacity will go up, and that you can offer higher income. That in turn will generate demand, and with growth determined by efficient capital accumulations. So if you have a high income, you will demand a lot of goods, you will save also more, so your capital will grow. This is the Harold Dumas simple model that an economy has to have savings, higher savings, and their per output capital requirement should be low, or given a capital, output should be higher. Then the economy can grow faster. In this model, three growth rates are explained: actual growth, determined by actual rate of savings and investment; warranted growth rate, potential growth rate; and natural growth rate, growth an economy can achieve with natural resources. So this is uh, actually this is Solo's model of economic growth. This model is neoclassical growth theory, propounds that. So Harold Dumas, you have learned the theory. We know that if I increase my savings and my capital output is good, then I will grow at a faster rate. There is an actual growth rate depending on my rate of savings and investment, warranted growth rate, and there is natural growth rate. Now let's go to Solo's model. Okay. Now Solo's model, why is output? Okay. This model, also known as neoclassical theory, is a technical. This says population growth rate, rate of technical progress, and savings rate bring about changes in the level of output. Okay, if more people, rate of technical progress is fast, savings rate is good, then level of output will also go up. But there are again basic assumptions, propositions. First, output growth in the long run steady state is determined by growth rate of labor force and growth rate of labor productivity. So, if the labor force is growing and labor productivity is growing, my output is supposed to grow. Clear? Second is, per capita income depends upon the rate of savings and investment to GDP. So if my per capita income will depend on the rate of savings and investment in GDP. They are saying that if there is a savings, I take from Harold Dumas models, and there is good investment in the economy, a lot of people will get job, and then per capita income will grow. I'll clear it again. Rate of savings of the economy as a whole, that will lead to investment into the highways, into the factories, and etc., more jobs. So per capita income will grow. So there should be more investment in GDP. Third proposition is, there will be convergence in the income level of different countries with certain assumption related to labor force growth, savings, depreciation. Depreciation is use of plant and machinery. You are using plant and machinery, their condition is deteriorating, so there is a depreciation, and productivity growth. These are the third assumptions. So the model explains long run economic growth through capital accumulation. If you accumulate capital, labor, and technology using core production function, that is Y is equal to output, function of capital and labor, technology and labor. If I have a labor and he is using a semi-automatic machine, he will produce X. But if I have an automatic pursuit, he will produce big X, delta X. He will produce more. So this is the core production function as per Solo's model. That if I have technology, I can have a better machine, then with the labor, I can produce more because I have capital to buy that machine. So my output goes up. That's the production function. The main equation of the Solo's model is K is equal to, you can read it, SF within bracket K minus N plus G plus D into K, where K is the change in capital per worker. How much investment I need for one worker to work. S is the savings rate. AFK is output per worker, and N plus G plus D represent population growth, technology growth, and depreciation. Now, so is it clear for you? So output will be depending on the savings rate and output per worker माइनस जो डिप्रिसिएशन हो रहा है, पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ, टेक्नोलॉजी ग्रोथ के लिए कुछ है, एंड कैपिटल रिक्वायर्ड पर कैपिटल that will go up in investment. So the balance will remain as output. Okay. So growth model, if I look at this picture, I get there are different place of capital per effective worker. So this is a model. Now savings is equal to actual investment SY. If I put in more of this is the output. Output goes up when I increase the capital per effective worker. If I can give more, that means high cost machine, if I can give one worker, that is automated machines and other thing, my output will go up, and that is why I will grow. That is why everywhere we talk about modernization, Bajaj factory, they are trying to bring in new machines, automated machines, so that they can produce more. You might have seen some of the factories which make consumer goods totally automated. They have very less. Another example I'll give you. In Tata Steel, Jamshedpur factory has more than 10,000 labor, but in Kalinganagar, Odisha, they are building a plant of similar capacity. They are having only 1,500 direct labor. So the productivity of labor is now much higher, and that is what brings in growth. This is Solo's model of economic growth. After that, I come to endogenous growth or new growth theory. Now, this is a very latest development in 1980s and something. Contends that internal processes within a system directly produces economic growth. This is another relatively recent concept of economics that explains how long-term economic growth originates from internal factors such as innovation, education, and investment in human capital. As we have seen in India through going through that phase partly, that if people are getting educated, innovation, startup capitals are there, and people are investing in human capital, so that new things, new economy is growing, and that is bringing in growth in the economy. More knowledge and education incorporated in the system do not cause, so far in the old classical theory, we know the diminishing rate of return. But here they say more you educate, more you gain knowledge, there is no reduction in returns. Instead, it increases the return by sophistications in your process, systems, etc. This challenges the classical ideas of diminishing return as presented in classical economics. You can see the picture. The more we increase in the capital, we deploy in the knowledge and education, the output grows up. Here, Y refers to output. A is the constant marginal productivity of capital, K. And K not only physical capital, that means money. It also includes human capital. Endogenous growth theory propagates the import. So finally we'll come to endogenous growth theory propagates that the important role of savings and human capital investment in achieving a higher level of growth. The higher the level of savings in the economy, the higher will be capital stock and national income. So endogenous growth is saying, unlike earlier two growth theories, that internally, if you educate, you innovate, you use in human capital, your people are healthy and other things, etc., etc., their productivity will be higher, you will have a growth and other things. So focus on that. That's the endogenous theory or new growth theory post 1980s. A lot of economists in US, they are propagating. So this is the last of the three main theories we were trying to discuss about the growth theory. Harold Dummer, who was talking about savings and investment. Then we came to Solo. Then we are coming to endogenous growth or new growth theory. Having said that, we'll go to the reason of underdevelopment. So major theories of underdevelopment. There are five are vicious circle of poverty, low level of equilibrium trap. These are basically one statement. Lower poverty, vicious circle of poverty is that if you are poor, you have poor savings, you cannot invest, so you look for a poor job, there you get a poor payment, again you remain poor. So this is the vicious cycle of your poverty, and you remain underdeveloped because you are unable to generate the capital which is required to grow. Low income, low rate of saving, low investment, low rate of capital formation leads to low productivity, low production, etc. etc. Now, low level of equilibrium trap model. Okay, low level of equilibrium trap. The theory propagates that because of poverty, that individuals' income level are low. This same thing like vicious cycle of poverty, you are trapped into this cycle. You can realize why a rickshawala is always remains, his son is also pulling rickshaw and other thing. They are unable to save or build up the capital to buy an auto, or I know somebody who could break it. Shamuli Poribohan, the name of the travel bus service provider. Uh, from auto he saved, and then he could buy a second-hand bus. From there he went to a Volvo bus, and now he has more than 70 Volvo bus running across the country, India to Bangladesh, then Calcutta to Varanasi, Calcutta to Raipur, and a lot of places. So this is came out of the trap. But most people are low level of equilibrium, they are managing their life. Next is that critical minimum effort. Income depressing forces, shocks lead to fall in per capita income. And there is an income generating forces, that is stimulants. The main feature of the underdeveloped economy is that income depressing forces are abundant. Jahan par bhi jao, you get low salary, you get a low income, and you cannot, it's very difficult to make both and meet. So where is the question of savings and other thing? So to overcome these hurdles, to break the chain of underdevelopment, a critical level of investment is needed. That is the theory. Critical minimum effort is there. Almost in the similar line, the next theory says theory of big push. It is by Professor Ron Roden. He says you need a huge and comprehensive investment package given by IMF or somebody to move from the stage of underdevelopment towards development. Citing an example of an airplane, he says that an airplane needs some critical ground speed to take off, and then it is on the air. He has identified three kinds of indivisibles where big push is needed: production functions, demand functions, savings. So big push in production, big push in demand, big push in savings. Savings will be giving capital, capital will give you more productive capacity, and that will create also demand because people will be employed, they will have earning, they will demand. So the problem in the underdeveloped countries face a huge depth of supply of savings. Savings is low because my income level is low, and that is why I am trapped in low investment cycle. So this is the theory of big push. This was the theory of the big push. Now I come to the major theories of underdevelopment is third portion of the this. Rostow in 1959 he came that there are 5 stages of economic growth which all countries must pass through to become developed country. One is traditional society, first stage. Agrarian and production function is primitive. You have handheld machines, you carry bucket of water, you don't have a pump. If you want pump, you don't have diesel to run. So you have some system you design कि पानी यहाँ से लेके उधर डाल रहे हो, एग्रीकल्चर फील्ड में पानी आ रहा है, or you are producing by very mostly by hand, handicraft type of machines, handloom and other things like that. and then automatic loop comes later on. Precondition of takeoff क्या है? Ideas begin to germinate for economic progress. So from handloom to power loom, because you can produce more clothes, power loom में. So idea starts coming, then you import power looms and then you build power looms. So it happened that a handloom worker and a power loom who's working in Reliance Textiles or Bombay Dyeing and other things, have a better life. So once you have that idea, then you try to move to from the handloom to the power loom. So this is a precondition that the idea has to come that I can improve my life. Takeoff is the dynamic changes in society and an increase in standard of life. But that means you are taking off now. You could change, come out of the poverty you have seen, and now you are into the path of dynamic changes. So your lifestyle will change. You were having a small mobile, then you had a better mobile Nokia, then the technology changed, you can afford a second grade Chinese mobile, and then you move to Apple or Samsung, like that. Takeoff stage. Drive to maturity is the diversification start in all sectors of economy. It's not only textiles or only auto or only mobile or something. Different sectors make. There is a growth. And there is modernization. There is automation. And today I can say there is digitization. This is called drive to maturity. So everybody understands that I have to put in capital, I have to automate, I have to bring in capital, so I have to save for that, etc., etc. Age of high mass consumption. At this time, we are industrial development ka high stage mein we reach. People have large amount of disposable income and urbanization processes getting momentum, and you are buying. So you can see the Reliance retail shops or various retail shops or various shops of Nike or what garments, Van Heusen or EA are in different cities or tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, because we are slowly entering into this phase. So we are at a time, India, in depending on the region and the cities, in the takeoff or the drive to maturity or the age of high mass consumption level may Indian economy exist. I hope I had made it point. Traditional society, you move to precondition to take off, then you take off, then you drive to maturity, and then finally you are developed because you can afford everything. So these are the underdevelopment, say how you develop and the economic growth comes in the society. So these are the broad factor. If you are knowing, then it is easier for you to manage the business, and you know which side I should cater or which part I should focus and etc. That is why economic growth and economic development models are important to understand. India rural in a different state, Indian tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities and in a different state, in the tier 1 cities are in a different state. It may be different, say, the Bombay is in a different state, whereas Calcutta is in a different state. So you will produce or you will take up those type of industries which suits the type of demand which is coming into the Indian economy. There is demand for various types of products in Indian economy as of now. There is demand for low-end products. So you have those stores like V-Mart and etc. etc. At the higher end, you have Gucci and other showrooms. In between, you have Pantaloons and Central or Reliance Trains, etc. etc. Okay, and you have footpath stores also. So this is the 5 stages of development through which you ultimately become a developed nation. And what was the per capita income? 12,000 per dollar plus. Having covered this, let me come to national income. So far, we have studied about the growth, the underdevelopment, developed, developing, and underdeveloped, and the reason of underdevelopment and how one from process can from the underdevelopment to developing like India is now to developed country. Indian higher strata, higher 1% to 10% of Indian people are almost in the developed category. Middle income group are into developing category, and there is a huge portion of underdeveloped economy also. So India may three states exist parallelly, but absolute poverty levels we have come up. So now I'll start national income. As you see, national income accounts help us to understand the growth and trajectory of the economy, and it is also useful for international comparison. It is just like what how much you are earning and how much the other person is earning, so you can compare. Most importantly, the figures of NI, national income, are derived from the figures of GDP. To understand national income, it is essential to understand GDP. That is why you will find there is too much talk about GDP. You open the TV and go to the discussion, they are talking about GDP growth rate, GDP is falling, GDP is growing, GDP is steady, comparatively less, comparatively low, etc. etc. So, now what is GDP? GDP is total monetary value of all final goods and services produced, total monetary value. So if I'm India, it is rupee. If I'm in America, it's an American dollar. If I'm in Singapore, it's a Singaporean dollar. Is the total monetary value of all final goods. I am not talking about intermediary goods and services produced within a country's borders, within a country actually, during a specific period, usually a year or quarter or even a month. So now let me talk about final goods. Now this is very important. So I will take how many cars sold. But there is a tire, there is seats, there is steering, and all these things have gone. These are also produced. But if I take how many tires are produced, how many steerings are produced, and how many cars are produced, then there will be double or triple accounting. But all have gone ultimately to produce a car. So if I take a car, that is a final good, I am taking care of tire, seat, steering, etc., battery, etc. So that is why all final goods and services are taken care of within a country's border during a specific period, that is yearly or quarterly. So generally, when Nirmala Sitharaman Madam presents the budget, she takes yearly GDP growth rate, and quarterly we announce quarterly growth rate of GDP, what is the growth rate, and etc. etc. Now let us know what are the components of GDP. What is GDP components? Food, goods, to samajh gaya hum. First is consumption, because you will be purchasing finished goods from grocery to consumer durables to consumables, and you will also take service, dental services, hospital services, financial services. So household spending on goods and services. Note it here, I'm talking about spending. That means you are buying the final goods. Investment, business spending on machinery, factory, they are setting up new plants, new equipment they are purchasing, they are setting up solar power plant, etc., etc. So this is investment is going. I am not taking into now the components of machineries but made by somebody and etc. Those products not. What business is buying and producing, because it's a finished product. Government spending, expenditure on services, That is one. That is a lot of government employees are there. They are offering different types of services, health services, education services, primary education, etc., which are free or you pay very little. Railway services and etc. Uh, that is services, infrastructure. They are building roads. They are building port. They are building airports, etc., etc., and defense. So a lot of defense spending is there in the arms, ammunitions, defense establishment, and salaries, pensions, etc. So these are government spending. Ultimately, they are buying something. Huh? So this is important. And then net exports. Exports is X, aim is imports. So net of export and import. So if I am not producing enough, my import will be more than the export because that I am importing and using. And if I am producing more, then I will be exporting more, importing less. So this totality is GDP. You go through it once, then you will realize that consumption, investment, expenditure, all on final goods and services, and then net exports. That is exports minus imports. That is by components of GDP, and that is GDP. Different concepts related to GDP or national income. One is gross national product. It is the market value. Remember my emphasis. It is the market value of all final goods and services produced in the year along with the net factor. That is net price you are paying. Income from abroad, NFIA, that is called, is the difference between factor income received like rent, interest, profit from and factor income paid abroad. So what happens? A lot of people has gone to Dubai, another thing, or we have embassies, etc. We have invested outside. So this interest profit are coming to India. At the same time, foreigners are investing. That is going abroad. So net FIA, income from abroad, that is we have studied earlier, income factor. So income from abroad, net. If it is positive, then it is added. If it is negative, then it is minused. Net national product is GNP. We have studied earlier. That is the market value minus depreciation, because the plant machineries, they are deteriorating in the condition. So they are depreciating, we can call it. So if we minus that from the growth, then we will get the net national product, because that machinery has lost its value to some extent. So if I minus that, I get the net, how much I have produced this year, divided by the total population I do, then I get the per capita income. So this is one from the national product end. Now we'll go to net domestic product. One is national, one is domestic. Okay. When it's national, we are taking into outside se bhi jo hamara income aa raha hai, another thing. The NRIs, they are earning another thing, etc., etc. But GDP mein, what is produced and services in India. Net domestic product is like net national product, the economic output of the country adjusted for depreciation. So GDP minus depreciation, that is the plant, machinery, building you have used for, because they are deteriorating in value. So I have to adjust for that. So I'll get the net domestic product. So these are important micro subjects definitions you must remember. You should be familiar with, I should say. Market price. When the NNP, net national products, are calculated at a market price, it includes cost of production and various taxes and subsidies which are imposed and provided by the government. So that means my cost of production is 1,000. Government duty is 20 rupees or 50 rupees or 100 rupees. A car. Production cost is something. We pay a lot of money to the government. You know, GST, another thing, 18%, 12%, like that is there. So net national product in market price, net national product in market price is net national product plus net indirect taxes. Indirect taxes are GSTs and excise duty and etc. etc. Custom duty etc. etc. So factor price is to produce this in contrast to market price. Factor price excludes the effect of NIT. So NNP factor price में अगर हम लेंगे, then NNP market price minus net indirect tax अगर हम कर लेते हैं, then I get this NNP as a factor price. Okay, so only the cost which gone in is there. So you have to keep a note that I am talking about the NNP at market price or NNP at factor price. That means I am not taking into the amount the incidence of direct taxes. Finally, let us come to the personal income. Is the income which an individual and household receives from all sources before paying tax. This is your personal income. But after that comes the disposable income, because after paying tax, what you are getting in hand, that is only thing you can spend, disposable in your hand. So from there you will buy grocery, pay fees for your son or daughter in school, or you save something, etc. etc. So there is a difference between personal income and disposable income. If there is taxation rate is high, your disposable income will be low, though your personal income may be high. So we have to understand the tax level you are in, and accordingly your disposable income you will be getting. So we have learned certain thing. Quickly run through it. Gross national product, income from abroad, NFIA, net national product or NNP, net domestic product, market price, factor price, personal income, and disposable income. These are the different concepts related to national income we need to know. Okay. Now, estimating national income, there are three approaches: product method, income method, and expenditure method. Product method mein, we go for net value added, gross value added minus depreciation. Gross value added matlab kya hai? Suppose I have purchased a tire and made the car. So if I minus all the component price, I get how much value I am adding. Make it simple. Suppose I have bought the cloth, converted into a shirt and sold it at 1500 rupees. I have bought the cloth at 500 rupees, paid the labor 300 rupees. So 500, 300, 800 if I minus, then this is, and 1500 I have sold. So 1500 minus 800, 700 is my value addition. So say net value addition is if I depreciate the cost of my machineries and etc. So this is the net value addition. If we add the all net value addition for every good produced, we will arrive at national output. So this is one method of value added method by which we can measure the national income. Second, in income, you take the income of everybody: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, the rent, the wage, and the interest, and the profit, and etc. If you add it up, you are aggregating all factor incomes of different producing unit within the country, and you are getting net domestic product at factor cost. Add with that foreign से जो income आया है, you get the national income. So net national income at factor cost is equal to net domestic product at factor cost plus net foreign income. This is the income method. Third is your expenditure method, which you have studied earlier. Gross domestic product. It is your expenditure, consumption, private consumption, investment is an also expenditure actually by the business people or household when you buy a capital goods like a washing machine or something like that. And government expenditure, these are all consumption. And then export of goods and services and import of goods and services, net of it. So this is the consumption or expenditure method. So these are the three methods with which we measure the national income. Some precaution while estimating national income. The expenditure of intermediate goods and services, transfer, because then there will be duplication. As I told earlier, If I add the cloth cost 500, my shirt cost 1500, then total 2000. But actually it is not. That cloth has gone into 1500. The labor paid for 500, this has gone into 1500. So 700 is the actual value addition. So that is why intermediate goods and services should not be taken into account. Transfer payment like scholarship, pension, because this is your earning which you give in scholarship. Income earned from second-hand goods, because this has already been taken into account when it was first produced. And income from sale of shares, bonds, windfall gains like lotteries and other things are not taken into account. Capital gain is taken. Now we'll come to the inflation, the eroding factor, I can call it. There is no universal definition of inflation, but too much money chases too few goods. You have heard very often. This is coined by economist Colborn. Colborn has came out with this line: too much money chasing too few goods, so the price of goods go up, and there is an inflation. Value of money comes down. That is what the second economist is, Crowther. A situation in which the value of money falls and prices rise, inflation is there. So economics are, there can be different views of the economist, but they're unanimous about inflation refers to a persistent and appreciable. That means persistent means it is growing, and appreciable means it is significant rise in general price level. The issue of inflation is utmost importance because it is both boon and bane. What an economy needs is a moderate rate of inflation. Now, obvious question is, what is moderate? The answer to this question varies from country to country depending on their level of development. If I come to India, Chakraborty Committee in 1985, they recommended that 4% inflation is acceptable, desirable for India's economic growth. And now, as I talk to you, the RBI mandate is to maintain inflation at 4% plus minus 2%. That means corridor is 2% to 6% ka under. If inflation is there, then India is a development phase, can afford this inflation or is important, because there will be demand for goods, then there will be investment in the economy, etc. etc. So you have understood inflation. Rise of price in general is inflation, simply speaking. Different method of measuring inflation are generally there are two methods. First is changes price index number. So price at point T minus price earlier divided by price earlier into 100 is rate of inflation. So price index number, this is our price index number in the current and preceding year. We generally take consumer price index or wholesale price index are two popular price indexes to measure inflation. So when RBI and others are talking about inflation, generally they talk about consumer price index, whether it has changed and higher and other thing. As of now, it is very low, the inflation rate. Second is GNP deflator. What is this? Nominal GNP divided by the real GNP. Real GNP is nominal minus inflation. So nominal GNP is GNP at the prevailing price, and real GNP is constant price at the base year. That means if my base year is 210, at that time what was the GNP? That means I am taking out the inflationary pressure. Out of these two indexes, GNP deflator is better because it is broadest coverage. Okay, so we can use GNP deflator, which is nominal GNP divided by the real GNP, or we can see what was the consumer price index last year, what is the consumer price this year, the difference divided by the last year, or I take the percentage, that is the inflation rate. As of now, inflation rate was low, but it is now around 2-3%. Consumer price index, as published by Ministry of Statistics and Project Implementation, Government of India. And GNP deflator is a better index actually to understand the inflation. Now we'll go to different types of inflation: creeping inflation, galloping inflation, hyperinflation. These are various way. If the price is generally rising slowly, it's okay, it's moderate inflation. But it is jumping. Onion 15 रुपया में खरीद रहा था, it has become 30 rupees, or it has become 20 rupees, 25 rupees. It's galloping inflation. Hyperinflation, you go to the market and suddenly find onions are 80 rupees a kilo. So it's a hyperinflation. World history has many examples, particularly during Second World War or in the Brazil. When you enter the restaurant, the price of coffee is in their price 20, but when you pay the bill, it is 60. The inflation is hyperinflation. The cause is inflation is because of two reasons. One is demand pull, because there is huge demand for the products, but supply is less, so the price goes up. Another is cost boost, when manufacturing cost has gone up, so there is no other way but you have to charge a higher price for the goods. So there is a cost push inflation and there is a demand pull inflation. So we have learned about the inflation, which is basically reduces your purchasing power of the effects of inflation, impact on income distribution, deterioration in the value of money. Income distribution क्या है? Because if the output price rise than the input price, that means the producer is benefiting, but you, the buyer, is not benefiting. So rich becomes richer, poor becomes poorer. Deterioration in the value of money, because it implies the real wage or real income decline with a rise in price. That is, purchasing power of your rupee is going down. Impact on borrower or lender. This is a very significant thing. It is the borrower who tend to gain due to inflation, because actually after 10 years, suppose I have taken a home loan and paying over 30 years, the money value after 30 years is much lower than the value now. So the lender is losing in case of inflation here. The method of taming inflation, we have monetary policy tools through which we generally try to control, and Reserve Bank of India is mandated to use monetary policy to regulate the supply of money in the market. In our next units, we will be studying about how inflation can be controlled. As of now, as I told you, Reserve Bank of India has given a mandate. So to summarize this session, we have covered a detailed account of economic growth and development, different theories of growth, and different variables like savings, investment, capital accumulation, human capital are necessary for the economy to achieve high level of growth. After that, we have discussed about the GDP, the national income, various components of that, which are calculated. And finally, we have studied inflation, the different method of measuring inflation like consumer price index, wholesale price index, GNP deflator, along with various reasons for inflation like cost push, demand pull, and finally the effect on inflation, where the income disparity goes up, the value of money goes down, and lender loses, borrower gains, and all these things we have studied in today's session. And with this, we come to an end. Thank you. Looking forward for the next session. Thanks again.